mechanics. And as we all know, so we looked at in macroscopic thermodynamics, what do we do? If I have a system, let's say I have gas in this system, right? So I have a system, it contains, let's say, gas molecules. We all know that all these atoms are there, but we don't kind of worry much about the exact molecular motion. We don't need to know anything about molecular motion. By anything, I mean the properties we see are because of this molecular motion, something like temperature. So we know when the temperature is high, what does it mean? It means that the molecules are moving more vigorously, or the speed is more, right, of the molecules. But we just measure the temperature, or we just measure the pressure. So these are macroscopic properties, right? Whatever properties. So we measure pressure, we measure temperature, right? Or we measure surface tension, etc. Or even energy I can measure. So, right? So I don't need to actually know what is happening at the molecular scale. How are the molecules moving? What is happening to them? So I don't need to know anything. Just based on the measurements, we say that we can actually quantify the properties, equation of state properties like pressure, temperature, etc. So statistical mechanics is an approach. It is a, I would say, let's say, it is a probabilistic approach to equilibrium properties of large numbers of degrees of freedom. By this, what I will understand what by large. Okay, so I'll just scroll down. So it takes a day or two kind of to get adjusted. So just bear with me. So what do I mean by large number of degrees of freedom? So if you look at the name, you have statistics, statistical mechanics, and we all know to get better statistics, you need a large sample space, right? So sample size, I should say, right? So only if I have large sample size, I can get better statistics, which actually you can say the mean and other things will match with the population mean. So the mean of the distribution will match with the population mean and all other properties. So that's the, so in the case of the systems we describe, you can just assume that means you have large number of molecules, right? So I can say the type of systems I'm describing where my n is of the order of 10 power 23. Why 10 power 23? I've just used because it's the Avogadro number. So you can assume that my n is of the order of this. So let me just, okay. So is it is the screen clearly visible? Can somebody text? Okay, okay. Chirag says yes, I'll go ahead. So, and we kind of to understand about molecular motions, so we just go to a system at the molecular scale and we look at what are the coordinates that are required to describe this system, right? So again, I take a system, let's say there are n molecules, right? So I have n molecules, and these molecules are moving around in space, right? Okay, so to determine the state, so here, since I'm looking at the molecular scale, I'll call this the microstate. Remember, so the pressure, etc., the properties, those are macroscopic properties. Now I am describing only the microstate. Okay, so every microstate, what are the coordinates I need? So microstate, I'll just say is gamma. I need the position of these particles, so that is r. And then I also need the velocity of particles. Velocity I'm just writing in terms of momentum, right? So p is m times v, right? So momentum is a vector, so velocity is a vector, momentum. So you can imagine that if I have just one particle, I have 3 degrees of freedom, right? Don't confuse this degree of freedom with what you study for a diatomic molecule, etc. So those are rotation, etc. So here let's assume that these, just a translational motion. So these are monatomic gas molecules. Okay, so I have this r, which is the position. So each molecule can move in x, y, and z independently. So I have 3, and again I have px, py, pz. Again, these are independent. So if the total momentum is conserved, then I know that px, py, pz are not independent. But since the number is large, let's assume that that's okay. So for every molecule, there are 6 degrees of freedom, right? So what does that mean? It means if I let's assume if I just had a system with just one molecule, if I ask you to describe the exact microstate of the system, you would need a 6-dimensional. So I have 4, 5, 6, right? So you need a 6-dimensional space to describe. And if I, let's say, draw a point here, what does that point mean? That point indicates the state, what microstate of my system is. So it means this is just for a single particle. It will tell me x1, y1, z1, px1, py1, pz1. Correct? So it will tell me these. Now imagine that you have a system. So let's say if this moves to some other point, so in time things are evolving, right? If I have a molecule, a single molecule in a box, it keeps on moving. So from this, let's say at some point in time it goes to this point, right? So this is state 1, this is state 2. How it evolves, etc., we'll look at those things later, but let's assume that it is moving to this point 2. So here again, this state point is x2, y2, z2, px2, py2, pz2. Okay, so this is just for a single molecule. Now, if you imagine that I have a system with n molecules, where n is of the order of 10 power 23. Now you will have a system. You can imagine how many axes you will need. So it is 6n dimensional, and of course you cannot draw. So it's an infinitesimal degrees of freedom. And again, any single, I would say, let's say, now a single point in this phase. Why is this not? Now this single point in the phase space, what does that tell me? That gives me the microstate of my n particle system. So the single point has information of what? X1, y1, z1, x2, y2, z2, x3, y3, z3, and so on and so forth up to xn, yn, cn. Then it again has px1, px2, px3, py1, px1, p1, sorry. So this has px1, py1, pz1, and again px2, py2, pz2, and so on and so forth up to pxn, right? So this single point is a microstate identified by all these coordinates. So generally what we say we'll write this as r power n, p power n. R is the coordinate axis, p is the momentum axis for n particles. So again, in this we will be only studying equilibrium statistical thermodynamics. So what does that mean? We don't discuss much, or we don't discuss at all. Let me just erase this. So we don't discuss about how the system evolves. Right? So we don't describe how the system evolves to equilibrium. Okay. So we are only interested once equilibrium has reached, we'll describe the system. Okay. So now for a same system, if I, let's say this is my system, I have n particles here. Now this is one. Now this may be the same system, but some particles have moved. So as you can see, they are not, both the position and the momentum may be different, right? So this is again another system. So you can write many such copies. Okay. And each copy is telling you, giving you a different microstate, because the positions and the momentum of the molecules in all these copies are different. Okay. So, okay. So any questions? All these have already been discussed, and I always advise that maybe you go back to the video once more, and then during the discussion session we can ask. But if something really is you're not understood, you can ask, you can unmute and ask. Should I go ahead? Somebody can say. Okay. Okay. So now, just as we looked at the systems, you remember we started with the first law where we described what is dE, and we said this is my potential TdS minus PdV. Then we looked at a system. So this is where it's a function of what was the system we are looking at. There is no work done, or so for this system, I'll use this potential, right, to describe these systems. So then we went to a system where we described enthalpy. So where we say there is a constant force J, but dq is 0. And then we looked at Helmholtz dF. Here we say there's a constant temperature, but dW is 0. And then we looked at dG, which is my Gibbs free energy, where I said constant T and constant J. J is the force. So basically, looking at the systems, there are some potential which gets minimized, right? So if I have an isolated system, I can say either the energy is minimum or my entropy is maximum at equilibrium. So if I take a system where process is happening at constant temperature and there is no work done, then I can say that at equilibrium, my potential, Helmholtz free energy is minimum. So all these are the thermodynamic potentials. And depending on what systems I'm looking at, I have to choose which potential. And again, as I discussed in class, for describing any system, you can choose any potential. But what you will realize is there is only one potential that makes the analysis very easier. That's the reason why, when you're looking at thermodynamic systems, you have to be very careful in what kind of potentials you choose to describe the system, right? So this was in macroscopic thermodynamics. Just like in macroscopic thermodynamics, in statistical thermodynamics, instead of we call something called ensembles. Okay, ensemble, it's a common English word where it's a collection of objects of kind of a similar nature. So that's the traditional definition, right? So you say ensemble of musicians, it's an ensemble orchestra. So you mean it's made up of people of a similar type. So basically in statistical thermodynamics, an ensemble is nothing but a collection of microstates with a specific, I would not say property, I would say instead of property, let's say I would say specific, I would say what should I say? Maybe a variable. This variable can be some specific thermodynamic variable that is constant. Right? So what do I mean by that? I'll just explain if this definition kind of confuses you. So we'll start with, so if let's say I have this ensembles. So this is 1, 2, or let's say microstates. All these are microstates, 4, 5, right? So I'll just draw just 3 molecules in the interest of time. Okay. So I have these 5 sets of microstate where each of these 5 sets have different microstate, right? Because as you can see, the position is different. At least that you can easily make out from the way I have drawn. I cannot make the motion kind of simulate the motion. So you can also assume that the velocities are different. So these are all different microstates, correct? But all these microstates, I can choose in such a way that they have something which is constant. Meaning to say, I can choose these microstates such that maybe they have constant energy and volume. Or I can choose these microstates such that they have constant, let's say, volume and temperature. So in all these cases, I'm assuming closed systems. So you can assume that n is constant. Okay, n is anyways constant. So this becomes NVE, this becomes NVT. Then I can also choose a system where my pressure and temperature are constant, right? So what am I doing in this? I'm looking at these microstates and I'm picking only those microstates. So which have constant energy or volume, which have constant volume and temperature, or which have constant pressure and temperature, right? So a microstate is nothing but some state of it's one of the possible states the system can exist. So you are grouping them into these systems, right? So now you know, for a system, there are infinite number of microstates that are possible. So now your job is, let's say I ask one of you to say, go and pick only those microstates which have constant energy and volume. Anyways, number is constant since my system is a closed system. So let's say that I give a task for the class saying that I'll specify that the number anyways, you will be given that in every box the number is same. Then I'll say the volume is something and the energy is some value. You go and pick only those boxes which satisfy this criteria. Okay, so now once that is done, what do you will have? You will have so you will have some boxes, right? Some of you will come up with these boxes, and of course this box, the number of boxes will be less than the initial total number of microstates possible, which was before what I have given. But what is common in all these in these boxes is they will have the same volume, same energy, and same number. And this ensemble, we call this as a microcanonical ensemble. And this you can, what does this correspond to in a macroscopic thermodynamics? You can think of a system that is mechanically and so mechanical work does not exist and there's no exchange of heat with the surroundings, right? So this corresponds to a mechanically and adiabatically isolated system. Okay. So now this ensemble is such that it corresponds to this system in your macroscopic thermodynamics. So what you're doing is you're going and picking only those microstates. And from now on, I'll define mu as indicative of a microstate. So you're picking only those microstates which satisfy this condition, that they have the same energy, same volume, and same number. Okay. So once this is done, now any property, any macroscopic property M, let's say I want to calculate the pressure, let's say I want to calculate the temperature, any. So you're making an ensemble such that, so remember how we defined the external, how we defined thermodynamic potential at constant something. So we used to keep something constant and then we used to say that becomes, it's a function of those. So here I'm keeping E and X. X are all the extensive variables like volume, area, etc. Right? So here in this case, it's only volume and number. Okay. And I describe the macroscopic property can be written as the function of this. Okay. So now this is the central postulate now of statistical mechanics. What I'm going to say. Okay. So what does it say? So in a for a microcanonical ensemble, the probability, so since P is the probability, E and X are kept constant, right? Yes. So the probability to find a given microstate is equal to 1 over omega EX times times 1 if the Hamiltonian is equal to E, 0 otherwise. So for now, what is the definition of Hamiltonian? You can imagine, for now, you can just think that Hamiltonian gives the energy of a particular microstate, the total energy associated with a particular microstate. So that is called the Hamiltonian. So now I know that my ensemble is a microcanonical ensemble. So all the states I have, I'm only choosing those ensembles which have the state energy E, right? So what does this say? The probability to find among the whatever states, microstates you have chosen, the probability E comma X is equal to 1 over omega Ex times 1 if your Hamiltonian of the microstate is equal to the energy which you have specified, else 0. That means any microstate that does not have the energy E is not part of the ensemble. Since it's not part of the ensemble, the probability of finding that state is 0. Okay. So now this is understood, the 0 part. Let's come to what is this omega E comma X. So omega E comma X basically, if you look at from a discrete perspective, it just tells you how many states, how many microstates are there, which satisfy or which have slash satisfy that these whatever you have specified. So which have the energy E and also the other variables X. Okay. So you're basically saying in how many actually stay in, if you look at from a discrete point of view, it basically you're telling how many boxes are there which have the energy E and which have the other extensive variables X. So for example, just think of a die, right? So you're rolling a die and let's say it's a fair die. How many faces are there? So there are 6 faces and goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the probability that you have 1 or you have 2. So here omega of E comma X corresponds to how many states are possible. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here omega E comma X for this case corresponds to, for this case omega Ex is nothing but my sample space of all the outcomes. So it's total possibilities are, there are 6 possibilities. Out of 6, each of if it's a fair die, each phase, each event has a equal probability. So now what does this mean? It's a central postulate. So it's saying that if I choose an ensemble, NV ensemble, every microstate has the same probability. Okay. Every box, the probability of choosing every box or any box in that ensemble which satisfies this condition is same. So that is what the central postulate tells. So in the continuous sense, what does this omega E comma X means? It gives you the, is nothing but the area of the surface. So if I look at, if assume this is my phase space and it contains all the points, and each point remember is a microstate, and only those points which satisfy this criteria, which is h of mu is E, are part of this ensemble. Okay. And I know if it's very difficult to kind of exactly get an energy E. So what we say is, okay, I'll give a relaxation, maybe delta. So any system that belongs, so this is in the continuous sense I'm saying, maybe E plus delta. So all these form the part of the answer. So this is just a practical implication I'm writing. But remember, all the systems will have the same energy E. Okay. So, and this actually is called the Boltzmann a priori, equal a priori, equilibrium probability. This is our assumption, right? Okay. Every state in a microcanonical ensemble is equally probable and given by this equation. Okay, so I'll go ahead to the next section. And from this, for these systems, remember, S again, entropy is again a function of E comma X. It's an isolated function. Remember, it's an isolated system, both mechanically and adiabatically. And this is given by KB ln of omega E comma X. So this is a very, very important formula in statistical mechanics. And KB is nothing but it's a constant so that the units match, and these constants, this constant is turns out to be the Boltzmann constant and has same units as entropy, and this value is okay. So entropy is equal to Boltzmann constant times log of my omega E comma X. Okay, so any questions till now? Any portion, any questions? I'll just go ahead, okay? I'll go ahead. So now let's go to using the statistical mechanics perspective. Let's look at some of the thermodynamic laws, right? So sorry about this. So let's look at my zeroth law. Basically, what does zeroth law tell me? If I have two bodies, if I have three bodies A, B, and C, where a third body is independently in equilibrium with A and independently equilibrium A and B, then A and B are also at equilibrium. And actually, this gives us a scale to define temperature. The concept of temperature arises from. Okay, so again, when I post the lectures from the beginning, again, I'll discuss this in more detail. So now let's look at how can we use my microcanonical ensemble to prove this, prove the zeroth law from a statistical mechanics perspective. What does that mean from statistical mechanics perspective? So for that, what do? The only ensemble now I know is NVE. So what I'll do is I'll choose two systems. So let's assume this has energy E1. And there was another system. There is another system independently before. They were energy E2. So initially they were not in contact. Now actually they are brought in contact. Okay. So this system has energy E1. This system has energy E2. Now they can, let's assume for now they can only exchange energy. So by exchange energy, I mean because there is this wall is a diathermic wall, so it lets heat to flow in. For now, let's assume X is kept constant, meaning to say that there's no work done as such in the process, right? So there's only transfer of heat from system, there is exchange of energy. Now what I'll do is I'll take this system and now I'll just insulate this whole system. Right? So now if I look at this system, how does this look like? So this is, again, I can say this is nothing but a NVE ensemble, right? So let me change the pen color. I think blue is good. So this is nothing but a NVE ensemble where what is kept, N is, the total N would be N1 plus N2. V would be V1 plus V2. My energy E is E1 plus E2, right? So anyway, since during this process, I'm now putting a constraint that the molecules are not getting exchanged and the volume is not changing during this heat transfer. So during this energy exchange. So I'll just say E1, E2 is something that is getting redistributed once they are brought in contact with each other. Okay, so E1, E2 are being redistributed. So I need to find what happens to this at equilibrium. How do they redistribute? So that is what I want to know, right? So I have this system where E1, E2, this is my NVE ensemble. What is the probability now of the microstate? So if I say this is initially, this is mu1, let's call this mu1 and let's call this mu2, right? Initially before the contact. And I assume that there is no interactions. By interaction, what do I mean? I'll just explain. Interactions between the microstates. So there is a very small or in fact no interaction between the microstate. That means initially E1 has a microstate mu1. There are some E1 as a system has many microstate. E2 has a system has many microstate. Now when you bring them together, what does that mean is those microstate can still exist for E1 and E2. Okay, just because I brought in contact with these two, it does not considerably alter the possible microstates of E1 or E2. That's what it means. No interactions between the microstates means that. Okay, so I have this system. Now I know in order to calculate, so my total enthalpy is nothing but H of mu1 plus, sorry, not that's excuse me, that the Hamiltonian, total Hamiltonian of the system is H of mu1 plus H of mu2 of this composite system, and this mu is nothing but mu1 times mu2. So this is an operator, so it's basically saying all the microstates of 1 and 2. It's a composite system, so that's what this means. So how do I describe the probability of mu? Right? It is equal to 1 over omega of E. Remember, I'll remove X from this because during this exchange, X is kept constant. Times 1 if H of mu1 plus H of mu2 is equal to E, else it is 0 otherwise. Okay. So now I need to, in order to calculate the probability of mu, what I need to know? I need to know what is omega of E, right? So what is again omega of E? Remember, omega of E is the area of the surface that contains all the possible microstates which have energy E. Or in a discrete sense, omega of E means it contains all, it's the number of microstates which have the energy E. Correct? Okay. So now how do I calculate this? Right? Because let's assume my total energy initially was maybe 10 epsilon, there's some units, right? This is the total energy E. So this can be distributed between E1, E2, right? So I have E1, E2, this is E. So E1 can be, if E1 is epsilon, this becomes 9 epsilon. If E1 is 2 epsilon, this becomes 8 epsilon. And then E1 can be minus epsilon, this becomes 11 epsilon. But in all the cases, the total energy is conserved. So now I need to calculate these number of states. How many states are there which give me a total energy of 10 epsilon? So in this case, how many states are there that give me the total energy of E? Okay. So to do that, what do I do? It's nothing but you need to sum up. But here it's a discrete case. But what we are doing is in a continuous case. So you remember, right? Whenever there is summing and there is a continuous case, what do? We take the integral. So what I do is I take the integral of all. So if I have E1, E2 is E. So if I take E1 as a variable, of course, E2 is dependent on E because E2 is E minus E1. So I can either choose E1 as a independent variable or E2 as independent variable. but I'll just choose E1 as the independent variable, DE1. So the total number of states, since the microstates don't interact between each other, is nothing but you need to multiply the microstate of system 1 times the multiply the state of system 2. Okay, this is again going back to what we are saying. If some work can be done in m ways and another thing can be done in n ways, what are the total number of ways in which that can be done? We'll say it's m cross, it's mn ways, right? So this is again permutation combination. So here is the same thing, right? So I'll say this is omega 1 of E1. Now omega 2 automatically gets fixed, right? Because omega 2, what is the energy will be E minus E1, because we are only looking at those systems where E2 plus E1 gives me E. So my so this give, I need to calculate what is omega of E. Once I know omega of E, I can calculate what is the individual probabilities of these systems, correct? So from there, I can actually describe the system very well. So now looking at this, what do I have? I know for a microcanonical ensemble, S is KB ln omega, right? Remember this, don't forget. So S of E comma X, omega becomes E comma X. Here X is kept constant because it's only exchange of energy. So I can just say S of E is equal to KB ln omega of E, right? Okay. Now, what will be omega of E? Omega of E is nothing but E to the power S divided by KB. Okay. This is from just the Boltzmann formula. So we need to substitute this here. So this becomes integral dE1 e to the power S1 of E1. Remember, so it's an exponential, so the powers will get added. So this becomes S2 of E minus E1 divided by KB. Okay. So I hope everybody is following. So we can discuss this in during the discussion session if there are any doubts. Okay. This gives me omega of E. So now again, this goes back to, we have a function. I need to calculate the integral. And what do I have? I have an exponential in the integral. And in the exponential, we know that entropy is an extensive function. It's an extensive variable. So remember this. So for generally intensive variables, I have pressure, maybe temperature, magnetic field. Remember this. So surface tension, all these are intensive variables. And for intensive variables, they scale as order n power 0. That's the actually definition of intensive, right? It does not depend on system size. Now, if I look at things like entropy, energy, and maybe volume, free energies, all these are extensive variables. And they scale as order, let's say n power 1. Right? And actually this, whatever we are, the mathematical implication is even is applicable to any systems which scales as n to the power some power greater than 1. Okay. But there are again some states where you'll see that if I say if I need to count the number of microstates, they sometimes scale as exponential of n to the power. So exponential of n to the power n is the number of molecules in the system. Phi is some intensive function, okay, intensive variable. Now if you look at this, what do I have? Again, I'll write this, omega of E is integral dE1 exponential S1 of E1 plus S2 of E minus E1 divided by KB. Okay, so I have an exponential and I know my entropy scales as order n. Okay, so now if you remember the saddle point mathematical approximation or formula, I will prove this in the next class. Okay, so we can also discuss this, or in the as a tutorial video I'll post the proof of whatever I'm saying now. Please check that after the class. Along with the class I'll post that. So I have this saddle point approximation. What does that mean? So if what does it say? If I have some sum or an integral of exponentials where this is going from, let's say, n equals 1 to a phi I, so let me say I equals 1 to a very large number n. So this n and this n are different. Okay, so let me just use a different color for that. So this n is the number of particles whereas this n is the number of terms in the exponential, in the expansion. Okay, so we know this through saddle point approximation formula which we studied. What do we know? I know that this can be approximated by the value, the maximum value of the summation. So what does that mean? So if I have a curve and let's assume that each value is giving something, right? Each sum. So when I equals 1, it's giving this. So this is phi I. So each term of this expansion, I'm just calculating what that value is. And let's say there is sum, which is this here. And this is the maximum, right? This is epsilon max. Okay. So what this approximation tells me is that the sum is nothing but, if let's say I have a sum like this sum can be approximated to its maximum value. Okay, I'll just also post in a separate video the proof. So here I have this omega E is dE1 e to the power the sum of this entropy of the two systems divided by KB. Okay, so but my entropy I know is an order of n. So now I have an exponential n to the power something which is intensive. So this has to be approximated by where this value becomes maximum. So I want to know where my e to the power S1 E1 plus S2 of E minus E1 divided by KB is maximum. Since it's an exponential and entropies, let's say, are always positive, so I can, that's also nothing but where this term is maximum. And remember, what is the thing that is varying here? You remember, so it's E1. So with respect to E1, if I differentiate this, when whatever the maximum value we get, the whole sum actually can be approximated by that. So I'll just differentiate this. So this becomes partial S1 by dE1 plus partial S2 of E minus E1. So first I'll differentiate by, let's say, E minus E1 is nothing but E2. I'll differentiate and then partial of E2 by partial E1. Okay. So this this is nothing but E2, remember. So this becomes partial S1 E1, partial E1. I'm not writing, of course, it's implicit that X is kept constant. Here X1 is kept constant, X2 is kept constant, plus partial S2 E2, partial E2, X2 is kept constant. Now I know what is E2. E2 is E minus E1. So if I differentiate E2 by E1, I'll get -1. And for this to be maximum, this has to be 0. So once this is there, so I get partial E1 S1 E1 at x1 is equal to partial S2 E2 next to constant. So what is this? This is nothing but for a system, if you go back to your macroscopic thermodynamics, I have dE is TdS minus, or I say plus Ji dxi, where xi is constant, partial S by partial E is nothing but 1 by T at constant x. Okay. So what is it saying? The systems will evolve into finally at equilibrium such that this term partial S1 by E1 at x1 is equal to partial S2 divided by sorry, is there 1 second, there is some, okay, no, that's correct, everything is right at x2. Okay, so this is nothing but the temperature, or 1 by T1 equals 1 by T2 or that means T1 equals T2. So the both the temperature will be same. So one more thing, what is again very interesting is that initially we started with the postulate saying that every microstate which has energy in such that E1 plus E2 is E is equally probable, right? That was our central postulate. But now what has happened is initially exactly we started with some microstate, right? So let's assume if I in this composite system, this is my E1 axis, this is my E2 axis. So initially I started with a system, let's assume maybe we were here and write with dotted lines. So we were E2 naught and we were here, we were at E1 naught, right? But now what does this say? At equilibrium, the system will evolve to some state. So this is constant energy, right? Remember. Such that this is E2 star and this is E1 star. And what is the most important thing about these states? So in these states, you have this is satisfied, this equation is satisfied. And when will this equation be satisfied, or what is the important thing? That this e to the power S1 E1 plus S2 E2 by KB. So this is maximum. So if my entropy is maximum, what is my omega S? I know as KB ln omega E, right? So that is also maximum. So what does this mean is that at equilibrium, it will reach this state. So imagine, so this is my omega E1 times omega 1 of E1 times omega 2 of E minus E1. That is nothing but omega E. Okay. So what it says is that even though every microstate in my microcanonical ensemble is equally probable, but at equilibrium, my system is dominated with states E1 star, E2 star. E1 star is the energy of system 1 and E2 star is energy of system 2. Okay, because it will evolve into such states where the number of ways in which, so this is nothing but the omega of E, the density of states, it is maximum. Further, at these, my equation is satisfied. So at E1 star by partial E1, constant x1 is partial S2. Okay, so this is slightly maybe confusing because initially I said every state is equally probable, but now I'm saying that, oh, there's a very high probability that will always evolve into state E1 plus E2 star. E1, so of course, right? So E1 star plus E2 star, I'm saying is E. And I'm also saying that at equilibrium, it will evolve to this state. Okay. Just there is no contradiction at all what I'm saying. You need to understand that every state is equally probable. Yes, so that's what Boltzmann says. So let's assume that E1 E2 is E, then there is another state E11 E1 or E22 is E, then there is some state maybe E11 plus E22 is E. All these are possible states. Now what this is saying is that at equilibrium, you will find that there are some states which are dominated, meaning to say that if I look at these systems, there is particular arrangement of energy. Let's say E11 plus E22. Let's assume E11 is E1 star, this is E2 star. This particular arrangement, you will see many states which have this energies. So it's again, what does it mean? First the first thing what you did is you pick boxes which have NVE. Of these boxes, now you realize that there are few boxes at equilibrium if I pick such that their distribution is the maximum. Okay. So remember this NV, we made this NVE by making this composite system. This was E1 initially, this was E2. Okay. So we'll end today's class here and I'll stop recording now.